What if Andrew Jack actually competed in the 2024 Arnold Classic? Where could he have potentially placed? We have his best shape to date, which was in Texas last year, next to the first call-out at the Arnold against Hardy and Samson. The real question is, would Andrew have taken second place above Samson Dauda? Second place because I don't think either of them is ready to take out Hardy yet. However, Andrew can challenge Samson in my opinion. And I also want to see if he actually can push Hardy here too. Front double biceps. Andrew looks statuesque here. He looks superb, but with this narrative, this would make Samson beat Hardy as well. So before Samson versus Andrew, let's see where they lose to Hardy. Is the conditioning? Yes. Not only better conditioning, but far better. Nobody can catch up to Hardy in terms of conditioning, but the problem with Samson and Andrew in general, it's not that they don't have conditioning like Hardy, it's because they have inferior conditioning to what I would call the norm for conditioning. At least for Samson, because here Andrew is drier than him. Yes, different lighting and so on, but Andrew in Texas was drier than Samson here. Samson versus Andrew now. I think Samson has edged the gap a little with better execution of the pose. This is how he did it last year at the Arnold, and indeed, I liked Andrew way more, but now Samson looks better than before. I wouldn't say better than Andrew as a statue, if you know what I mean, but if you count the fact that Samson has better legs and more muscle overall, I think he edges out Andrew. It's a toss-up indeed, there are arguments for both. Personally, I prefer Andrew over Samson in this pose, but just barely. In the front lat spread though, I'm convinced I like Andrew way more than Samson. Now when you judge this pose by pose, you could argue both of them beat Hardy, and if they beat Hardy in most poses, how is Hardy winning overall, right? It's because conditioning and detail count more than just better overall flow. It has to be a balance of everything, and in this mix of everything Hardy wins. But from the standpoint of how they flow in this pose, Hardy can't be considered last. The other two are way more imposing. Anyway, back to our Samson versus Andrew initial question. Despite Samson's superior quads, I'd give this pose overall to Andrew Jack because he fills it out way better. His lats and midsection are superior. From the front, Andrew has an advantage over Samson, I would say. In the side chest, Andrew falls last in my opinion despite his great chest. It's because he's got the most modest lower body by far and skinny arms from this angle. His guns look proportionally weaker than Hardy's in this pose. The same thing in the other side pose. Andrew knows his side leg is not the best and hits the pose this way. You know the story, they don't like this front triceps execution. Some of you don't agree, but it is what it is. And regardless of execution, I think he loses this pose to Samson no matter what, so from the side Andrew loses to Samson. Hardy beats them both easily in the side try, I would say. From the back, Andrew edges out the gap a little against Samson. Probably Samson would still win overall in the back double. First because of the superior hamstrings and calves, downstairs and then upper body he may have a little more mass. But this pose is close between him and Andrew. Andrew is not that far behind in my opinion. Both are kinda underwhelming in this pose, let's be honest. Pretty much the same thing in the lat spread. Samson wins downstairs and upper body it's pretty close. Though I would argue Andrew has the better lats. His back is wider than Samson's. I think there's a strong case for him to beat Samson in this other back pose. It's close, but just as close Samson won the back double, Andrew could be winning this other back pose. So overall from the back, they pretty much are the same. And Hardy beats them both easily from the back. I don't think it should be a question. So Andrew won against Samson the front poses, lost the side poses, and they were more or less equal from the back. Yes, Samson is more massive, but Andrew is a bit sharper and bigger in height, so they pretty much cancel each other out. abs and thighs is next, and then the most muscular. Here Andrew beats Samson. Andrew is the only one who can arguably challenge Hadi in this pose, and even more than that, he can win even. Now, Hadi's rock hard abs and superior thighs are hard to beat, but it's not only about that. Especially in this pose, probably the one pose where aesthetics and flow matter the most. Andrew has a better ab insertions, he's got pretty good quads, especially with the cross striations, and he completely overrules Hadi with size. Andrew is bigger and more aesthetic, which counts a lot, but if between them it's tight, if we go back to Andrew versus Samson, Andrew destroys him. So overall, before the last pose, I'd say Andrew has the upper hand against Samson. However, in the most muscular, Samson comes back strong and edges out the playing field again. The most muscular is the only front pose where Andrew looks modest, I would say. He's got those long and thin arms which hurt him a lot, and the execution doesn't help him either. Samson is massive and round, and I believe that the advantage Andrew gained in the abs and thighs over him is neutralized here. So in the end, we're left with a very balanced battle between Samson and Andrew. Samson always beat Andrew on stage, but he never met Andrew at his best, like he was in Texas. Andrew at his best could potentially defeat Samson in my opinion, just as we've seen in this comparison. Given the fact that Andrew was in slightly better condition, in my opinion, with this physique on this past weekend stage, he would have finished second behind Hadi and above Samson Dauda.